Some people say my story started when I was 14 years old, after I got the call that I was going to work on a pilot that would soon become Canada's most forward-thinking series. Others say it was when my first agent saw me perform in an acting showcase when I was 9. My parents still believe my story started when I was just 3 years old, when I would make silly faces on command that would make them laugh. I'm not quite sure when my story really started, but somehow my story got me here to where I am now, telling you all the story of my life and my career as an actor. I do have one confession, however. As grateful as I am to have had such an amazing career start at such a young age, I was also very spoiled. At 14 years old, I was given the opportunity by Westwood Pictures to take on a character in a series that would not only shake the country, but the world. Little Mosque on the Prairie was the first job I ever had, period, and it continues to be the most important job of my career today. I also have a bit of a bone to pick with Little Mosque, because if anyone has spoiled me the most, it is none other than CBC. In my first role, I had the privilege to work on a sitcom written by a woman of color, which had one of the most diverse casts I had ever seen, and a team that taught me the importance of creating work with meaning. They spoiled me because at 14, this is what I thought the world of film was. A world of diversity, changing the status quo, and informing people's minds through entertainment. The people of Little Mosque gave me hope, and that hope is what I would need to tackle the world of film and TV today. After Little Mosque, I finished my bachelor's degree in Fine Arts and Theater at SFU in 2014. It was a program that taught me about performance, collaboration, and adaptation, a perfect combination that I would need to succeed in today's industry. After graduation, my new agent and I dove headfirst into a pool of auditions and endless rejections. Of course, I've been lucky enough over the last few years to work on incredible productions, such as The X-Files, Riverdale, and most recently, voice a Muslim superhero on Marvel Superheroes Adventures miniseries. My career has continued to inspire me and teach me things not only about the industry, but how our industry informs the world. And while my story may sound unique, there are many brilliant South Asian veterans in the Canadian industry, such as Manoj Sood, hey dad, Veena Sood, Nimet Kanji, Parm Soor, Satara Hewitt, Sujit Varghese, Rizwan Manji, Agam Darshi, and many others who share similar daily struggles and victories as an actor. So right now, instead of simply telling you about my story, I want to talk about what I began to learn about the film and television industry after my time at Little Mosque. I want to tell you how my ongoing career has informed me of what needs to happen in order to have more successful and notable South Asian actors, producers, directors, and writers in the industry. The biggest hurdle I had to wrap my head around after Little Mosque was becoming aware of the huge lack in representation and opportunity for diversity as an actor. Keep in mind, I was part of a series for 6 years that had a leading cast that was diverse in ethnicity, religion, and age. In my mind, CBC had already done its job in showing that a show could be successful with a diverse cast, and now the rest of the world could follow. But instead, I began to hear more and more of how South Asians, or brown people, were only auditioning for the stereotypes: the terrorist, the cab driver, or the overbearing traditional parents. These were the options I was left to audition for when the series ended. And yet, still over the last 5 years, I've been cast as a doctor, a teacher, a soldier, a fairy, an elf, yes, an elf, and a superhero. Again, I was spoiled. We now have people like Hassan Minhaj, Priyanka Chopra, Dev Patel, and Mindy Kaling breaking those boundaries on an international level and showing that the South Asian community has diversity within itself that is yet to be explored. And while minority stereotypes have yet to be a thing of the past, we must still acknowledge that the industry is changing in the right direction. I have played a character where the name was changed to represent my own personal background for the sake of accuracy. I've also played a character with a Scottish last name, and the name wasn't changed to show that not all Indian people have Indian last names. They were both on different sides of the spectrum, and yet both made a clear choice to represent diversity to the best of their abilities. Now, that being said, while I agree that Hollywood is on the right track to equal and diverse representation, it still has a far way to go. And even if it finally gets to a place of equal representation and diversification, it won't be enough. No matter how many independent films and no matter how many comedians, political commentators, and YouTube stars make their way to the popular media or the big screen, there is still so much to be done. Right now, Canada has an incredible group of South Asian creators, yet we are still struggling to find ourselves to be acknowledged by the masses in the popular stream. Why? The truth is a tough pill to swallow, and I struggle with it every day. Right now, diversity is a check mark. It's a quota that the industry is encouraged to include in their work to increase their audience and ratings. It's also a quota that many international film festivals are encouraged to follow in order to present the image that diversity is being celebrated. Now, while these encouragements are both necessary and effective to balance the scales, it can only go so far. As wonderful as it is to have platforms in the city for South Asian communities to be celebrated in their filmmaking skills, diverse Indo-American and Indo-Canadian stories are still yet to be told in the mainstream of the film and television industry. This is a problem that only our own community can solve, and it begins with proportionate representation within our own digital storytelling of South Asian communities. It begins with telling diverse South Asian stories within our own films. For every story with an Indian girl fighting her parents about arranged marriage, there needs to be a story about an Indian boy living with his non-Indian boyfriend, and the parents are not just okay with it, but celebrate it. It was this realization that led me to wanting to explore the world of producing. As much as the industry is heading in the right direction, and I'm continuing to provide more representation of the South Asian people as an actor, I have no right to expect them to tell stories of people through my eyes and my imagination if I'm not willing to try and tell them myself. My exploration in producing is still very much in its infancy, but it has already taught me so much as an actor. For one, it made me realize that our own community feels that unless we're exploring topical narratives or ethnic conflicts within our own films that we make, that they're of no value to the masses or they've already been seen before. Therefore, we're subject to telling stories that limit the world view of our diverse community. Here's the spectrum that we somehow have to fall on. Bend It Like Beckham and the Mindy Project on one side, Hollywood, Bollywood, and Biba Boys in the middle, and Slumdog Millionaire, Lion, and Life of Pi on the other side. Tell me I'm wrong, guys. Now, these successful films and shows may seem drastically different to the average viewer, but to the South Asian community in the Western world, this barely scratches the surface. In the 13 years I've had in this industry, I've been lucky enough to experience massive industry changes throughout my career. There is another change coming, but it's only going to come from the South Asian community within the industry who want to break out of that spectrum. My hope is that in the next wave of change, I begin to see Hollywood film genres with leading South Asian actors. But to take it further, I want to see films with Indian leads whose stories have nothing to do with their race, religion, or culture. I want to see a movie where the movie title isn't only in Samarkand font just because the lead actor is Indian. I want to see a series where there isn't just one or two, but even 3 South Asian lead characters and it not be labeled as an Indian drama or comedy. I want to see a movie where an Indian girl makes a wish on her 13th birthday and wakes up as a 30-year-old fashion magazine editor in the middle of New York. And yes, that's the plot to 13 going on 30. I really love Jennifer Garner, guys. But this won't happen unless we start telling those stories ourselves. Little Mosque on the Prairie may have been my beginning as an actor, but it was also the beginning of what is yet to come. It was the beginning of a change that started over a decade ago from within a Muslim Canadian woman from Saskatchewan named Zarka Nawaz, a woman that will always continue to inspire me, a woman that didn't just create a story that she thought others wanted to see, but what she wanted to see herself. And that was, is, and will always be my goal as an actor and as a creator. As my career continues, I will always strive to represent the characters that I want to see on screen, and I will always strive to spoil others as Little Mosque spoiled me. That change is not only possible, it's already happening, and you are part of that story. Thank you.